Hello and welcome to the Tuesday night music show. Last night on the Hanging on Monday Night show, we talked about some different structures for weddings in different parts of the country. Unfortunately, the only people we were really talking to were, what was it? 3 people from the Midwest and somebody from California. We have a few other people in here tonight, so I thought I'd do a little follow-up and pick on the kids from the northeastern seaboard and ask them about just the general structure of your, let's say, weddings. General structure. I'm not talking big details. I'm talking about how long is it and how are the segments broken up for dinner and dancing and things like that for a reception. And after we do that, I want to talk about something Jay was chomping on the bit of last night, which is what style of playing music or mixing do you do and why, specific to your type of event. There's a point to all this. So I will just go real quick and let's ask Eric. Eric, when you do weddings, typically, generally, reception only, what are you looking at for a time frame on that? What time do you get there? What time do you end?
Reception only, I always allow up to 5 hours. That's just
okay.
Because a lot, like an hour is like beginning, people coming in from the ceremony and settling down, ordering a drink. So that's an hour.
What's your start time? Well, generally, what's your start time?
It's different every time, but I mean, let's just say 6 to 11.
Okay, 6 to 11.
So people start arriving at 6.
Yeah.
Right? I got background music going as they're arriving. Hey, how are you? Great wedding, blah, blah, blah. All finding the name tag, seat, sitting down, whatever. So from there, not all of them have a cocktail hour, but I guess that first hour is kind of like the cocktail hour.
Okay, so dinner's starting like 7 o'clock for you?
Yeah, 7:15, 7:20, And there have been times where they weren't ready for me. So at that point, I would say, okay, let's do the first dance, get it out of the way.
Okay.
I mean, the parent dances, because they're already in, and the dinner ain't ready.
Okay.
So they're asking me, hey, what could I said, fine, we'll do the parent dances now, and maybe the cake. I could stall things a little bit.
Sure.
So we're done that, then we can do dinner. But anyway, so on the normal 6 o'clock, people are arriving. 7 o'clock, 7:15, it's dinner.
Okay.
Now it brings us to about 8. Before 8, I usually have the cake done. Because 9 out of 10 times they're using that for dessert. They want that in the kitchen cut and brought out. So now I'll do the parent dances, probably roughly about 8:30, right around there.
So 8:30 to midnight is your dancing portion.
Yes.
Okay.
8:30 to 8:30 to 11.
8:30 to 11 is your dancing portion. Right. So 2.5 hours. Am I doing the math on that right?
Somewhere around there. Yeah, 2.5. It's very hard to get 3 hours.
Is it hard?
Assault, you're hard.
Is it hard in your cow in your pocket?
No, at a wedding, there's so much going on. Nothing will ever go as planned, mind you.
Of course. Right.
I mean, they can give you an itinerary all they want. That's fine. It's a rough estimate, but it's not going to go like that. It never does.
No, we were talking last night, and I was telling people that typically, on average, my receptions are 6 hours. Dinner is usually 6-ish to 7:30-ish, sometimes 8, and then dancing's 8 to midnight. So I got a 4-hour dance set. That's kind of what I'm looking for here. Don't need deep details on this. Damon was about the same thing in Detroit, right?
Yes.
Pretty much the same thing. Yep. Bill, what's going on for you? I guess you and John are going to have identical answers on this.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I kind of go with Eric. It's our just reception. We're not talking about ceremony on site.
Right. Just an average
5 hours
reception time. Okay, 5 hours.
I find most of my Saturdays now are running 5 to 10.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
People are really liking that kind of sweet spot time.
Sure.
The other trend I see going now, I actually did it this past Saturday. They want everything up front. So let's do introductions. Let's go right into first dance, parent dances. Let's cut the cake and be done.
Right.
So that's been rolling lately. That's kind of a trend. And then during dinner, the trend of we'll sit on the dance floor and have the tables run up and take the photo thing. That's been a TikTok trend, and it's kind of trickling through. But I'm also somebody. So if we're not doing kind of like that TikTok thing, but during dinner, what I'll do is between courses, I'll actually pull people up to dance. So I like to keep the floor moving. I'll check in with the function staff. I'll always say, listen, this is really what I like to do. I like to get people up between courses, but I wait for you to be ready to clear. So when you're ready to clear a course, let me know. I'll pull everybody off your tables, clear empty tables. Well, when you're ready to get them going again for another course, I'll sit them back down. So I like to keep things moving.
Sure.
I love to get people dancing between courses and just kind of keep the party going all night long. And
when are you uninterrupted with that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, when is it that you cannot worry about the courses and all that, and you just have uninterrupted dancing time?
That's usually my sweet spot's 2 hours. So my last 2 hours of the event,
8
that's
to
my
10.
sweet spot.
So 2 hours.
8 to 10.
So Eric's 2.5. You're 2. John, are you 2 as well?
Pretty much the same. Now that everyone's front loading the event to try to get everything out of the way, whether it's because the photographers are leaving or whatever reason. It used to be grand entrance in,
Good point.
couple's first dance, and then it was subject to negotiation. It was like they're either going to get everybody off the floor, sit for the salads course, toast, speeches, blessings, and then midway through, you get towards the end of dinner, speech. Then you're calling the parent dances. Then you bring the bride and groom back out, or then you fill the dance floor and whatever. And that's probably going to come out to the timeline will be the same as what Bill's got. You're going to end up with 2.5 hours.
What is your cake
nonstop.
bowl? What is the cake?
Well, it used to be our decision. Now it's whether it's ready or if the kitchen staff is there. Some couples want to do it right after their first dance while they're out there. Cut the cake.
I've also found that our area is also cake isn't a big thing anymore. Just want to do it quietly off to the side.
Yeah. That's same here. So Jay, to review, in a nutshell, and I know you are not a man of few words, you're a man of many words, but in a nutshell, what are you looking at? You told me for the last, let's say 8-10ish years, it's about a 2-hour block, correct?
Yeah, for dancing.
On average.
On average, 2.5.
Okay. Which is very unique, Damon. We're playing long. These guys are playing short.
Yeah.
For open dancing. It's different, right?
Yeah.
I guess that's really what I wanted to express last night, but we didn't have a demographic broad enough to talk about that. We only had Jay. He was the only one who was really different.
Well, and the thing that I didn't really get into last night the way I always say to clients is the time to end a wedding should end not when it should end, but when it shouldn't end.
Right.
And what that means is if you have 100 people on the dance floor, that's a hell of a wedding ending.
Yeah, that's the
versus if you have 4.
Quitting while you're ahead. Yeah.
So even like I told you last night, it happens all the time. And famously, I did the vice president of tickets for the San Diego Padres wedding. It went to 11 at Petco Park. And at like 9:45, I could start to feel it. And by 10:10, you could see the key people starting to put sports coats back on and stuff. So I went over to the bride and groom and I said, hey, let me do that last slow song and then the last banger. The last banger was like Journey. He goes, what time is it? I said, it's like 10:15. He goes, we don't end till 11. I said, there'll be no one here at 11.
Yeah.
He goes, you think so? I said, if I end in 10 minutes, I'll bet you within 15, the place is down to you, me, and, Sally over here. That's it. He goes, I go, have you ever been at a game in the 4th inning thinking it's only the 4th? Is there any way we can end this game now? And he just looked at me, he goes, I trust you. And we did the last 2 songs and I barely stopped it. And that place just whoosh, out they went. It's not a reflection on us, but if you're wedding, just because you're supposed to go till midnight doesn't mean you have to.
I want to put that in the pocket because I want to talk about it. I really want to talk about it. But before I do that, I want to kind of go on the course I was planning on going on, which is just, but please remind me of what you talked about, because that's a really good point. And there are a couple different ways I feel like are good ways to handle that, because it's valid. And I've been experiencing it for a very long time as well. But what I wanted to talk about first was how there's been a debate about whether they're quick mix or not. And some people either hardcore quick mix or hardcore not. And I think it's interesting to have this conversation once we understand that we're all playing within very different time frames. For instance, someone like Damon and I have to fill 4 to 5 hours. If we quick mix 4 to 5 hours, we might run out of tunes. Whereas somebody like the rest of you who are doing 2 hours, you want to cram as many songs as you can into that 2 hours. And sometimes to quick mix is a really good way to do it. So personally, myself, I tend to play radio edits of songs. I don't play long versions of songs. I'll do radio edits of songs, so they're pretty short. And there are some songs that are just made to be mixed. There are some sets that I'm doing throughout the night that are built for this, and I'm mixing those sets. Something that a friend of mine locally does that I really want to start doing more at events is, as a quinceañera DJ, my friend Art, freestyle is huge in the Latin community.
Yes, it is.
And they don't necessarily want an hour of it, but they want to hear the hits. So it's almost like he does a live freestyle medley, which is a lot like what they're calling quick mixes now. He'll do it on the fly, and he'll do intro, verse, chorus out into intro, verse, chorus out, and try to cram all of these freestyle songs. Yes, Jay, all George Lamont songs.
That's freestyle.
And into 10 or 15 minutes of joy for the crowd. Then he goes back into the traditional, Mexican, Hispanic stuff. So I do dig that. But I was curious for the rest of you. I know, Jay, you're starting to do like quick mixes, and a lot of that has to do with the time frame you're working with.
It's the time frame, and it's when we say 2.5 hours. The last 2 weddings I had, one with the power outage, that was an issue. But the other one, the bride and groom met in theater school at UCLA, and they both work in the industry. So to say that getting photographs and video after the wedding was at 4, so the cocktail was 4:30 to 5:30. Well, I'm expecting to introduce them at 5:45.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the coordinator for the wedding, and I go, "Hey, dude, there's no way. They're not even done with the wedding party, and it's 5:30. So I'm going to predict 6:15 they're coming in. So 6:30 will be grand entrance." He goes, "Oh, it can't be that late." I go, "It's going to be that late. You may want to tell the caterer to slow down."
Yeah.
I introduced him at 6:35, and he just looks at me and goes, "How did you know?" I go, "Because I've been doing this a very long time, and you get
when
a
did you
vibe."
start this gig? Yeah.
Yeah, he's brand new to weddings. He's a GM at a golf course.
Sure.
And so they lost an hour up front. Well, they've got to be done at 10.
Right.
Well, we get to the toast. Well, guess what? The 4 toasters are dramatics. So they can't speak for like 30 seconds or 60 seconds.
Right. Always a nightmare.
So 25 minutes of toast. So now they're an hour and a half behind. So I'm like literally playing a minute and a half of Billie Jean into something else.
Uh-huh.
And like I said, I only quick mix when I want the crowd to think I played more music than I actually played.
Right.
Because I want them to leave going, "Man, that was awesome." And you just hit them over the head.
Well, especially if they've
mix.
asked for a lot of songs.
Well, they did. They'd asked for a lot.
So you need to get them in there as well as
you're
you
trying
can.
to shove them all out there at once.
You have the perfect excuse to say we didn't have time to play them, but you're over.
You want to try to be a pro about it.
Fantastic, yeah.
You're only
I
looking at
envy
a
the
90
quick
minutes
mix.
I
disadvantage.
generally try to do a build. So I'll start playing, and then towards the end, I'll lay in my quick mixes.
Uh-huh.
Like Saturday, they asked for techno, and I said, "You know what? We will get there. I promise you, we will get there." And then I laid in. We were mixing out. I laid in like "Better Off Alone." Then I ran into the Axel F. I ran into the Top Gun.
Crazy Frog version.
All these great technos that are old school, but technos. And I quick mixed right through them, and then it was right towards the end of the night.
Yeah.
And they're hammering there. They're having a blast. They're jumping. And then I brought it up over the top and then down in and finished out. And they came up and they went, "That was freaking awesome."
Excellent.
But I quick mixed towards the end of the event.
Sure. And I'm doing similar things with certain EDM tracks, or because, if they want to hear 15 EDM tracks, I don't need to spend an hour and 15 minutes playing them if there's other things to play too. So towards the end of the night,
you do the unfamiliars. I mean, that EDM wedding I had a couple of years ago, I've never seen a crowd go ballistic, but they wanted the EDM stuff. So I ended up going from Whitney Houston, Want to Dance with Somebody, into Fisher, Losing It. Well, they're polar opposite tracks.
Right.
And even though I was speeding up and slowing down, when that I'm losing, when that hits, the crowd goes nuts because it's the perfect out of it.
Yeah,
so it's one of those things where you can get away with, hey, let me give you 2 or 3 bangers. I think I did that, Call on Me, and something else.
Sure.
And then used it as a way to come back down to something in a different genre.
Sandstorm has that big break in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
What I actually did is when that broke, I laid into your track of Shipping Up to Boston, Jay.
Yeah. Well, for your audience,
if you
that's
love
like
Boston, put your hands in the air. So when that broke, I rolled into that, and that I played that whole thing of 30 seconds, maybe 40 seconds, and rolled off to something else, and it was just great. It was enough.
That's perfect.
Just to bring in the Shipping Up to Boston, and it's got that drop, that dun 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 dun, and then I rolled it into something else, and they were just banging because Sandstorm has this great build, and then it drops away.
So I have Eric and Jay I have to wrangle tonight. So if I let him go, those two will just go on.
No, I really quick though, 2 seconds.
Just keeps going. Yeah.
Just really quick. The one thing we haven't mentioned that I think is essential.
I'm trying, Eric. I'm trying.
Well, and he's even slow in the hearing part though. That's the best thing. 10 minutes later, wow. Gabagoo. So you have to look at things from, we're in a time where the DJ isn't as important as we were. Because
stop.
Everyone's got music.
What you're doing is we're talking about motorcycles, and you want to talk about tractors.
I think I'm talking motorcycles, but I'm telling people why you want to ride a motorcycle. And the reason is because whether it's quick mixing or not, I think more than ever, it's essential. We act like an effing DJ at the wedding or event. Like we actually do our job well now because we can't get away with, I'm the DJ. We have to do something they can't do at home.
You can't call it in. And absolutely.
No, absolutely not. And I think that's why it's becoming, you're seeing more and more people start DJ schools because it's now, look at my gear. It looks amazing. But if you can't figure out how to read the crowd and program,
right.
I don't care how much you spent for your lights and speakers and facade, you're up a creek that you weren't up 10 years ago. You could get away with looks 10 years ago. You can't now.
Eric, what say you?
Well, as far as the quick mixing goes, I'm all for it. If it's the problem is around here, the crowd kind of gets pissed. Like you're just getting into it, and now you're getting out of it.
That happens. Yeah.
Or they're just getting to the dance floor, and you're mixing out of it.
Right.
And what are you doing?
I find that a lot, Eric, with old slow songs because they're so short. You play Elvis Presley's Can't Help Falling in Love with You. It's 2 minutes and 20 some seconds long. By the time Grandma and Grandpa get up and make their way out there, it's over.
Yeah.
Right. You got to play
find another one.
Patsy Cline Crazy or something to follow it up with.
You definitely got a double on those.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying. I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah.
No, but that's basically what I was getting at. Like around here, the quick mixes, I love doing them, but I get a lot of hell from it too. When I do them because they just want to hear the whole song sometimes.
I think the interesting point that you're bringing up, and I agree with you, is that you have to know when it's appropriate and when it's not. Mm-hmm. When the audience is going to dig it and when they're not.
It depends on the crowd.
If you try to quick mix in front of an audience who doesn't want that, you got a problem. You got to know that this is what they want, and do it in a way that's good.
Well, that's why I did it with like the EDM because that is all kind of a similar, and you can quick mix that stuff.
It's made for that. John, you have a thought.
The crowd.
I can see your thought in your head from here.
Know your material. Know your mix, know the original mix of the song, know the remix of the song, understand what your waveform means, and know where these lulls in energy. Because even EDM songs have these sometimes god awful breaks that just suck all the air out of it. We're not at a festival, and not everyone has Coachella glow sticks. But knowing EDM is automatically going to have energy. What doesn't have energy for the quick mixes when you're down in the 92 to 96 R&B, and if you can get through a bunch of that stuff and move that along, because they had a lot of that on the list. I like the word used when you said medley, because it's not a quick mix. They're getting enough of the song to think they heard the song, verse, chorus, verse, break, and work in another one, and then there's another song right there, and the energy maintains, and you don't have these dead spots. Whereas EDM, it's just anything that's over 125 and just keep slamming them all night. But know where the song takes a dive, and know that, start setting up a way to get out of it that makes sense. And it doesn't feel like a quick mix that way. Because quick mix just seems like first chorus, and you just shuffle through stuff too fast. And like you say, you're not giving the song enough time to marinate, to build. Right. People to remember that they just get into the dance floor. I came on to dance. There are so many gone already. You know what I mean?
There are so many songs that once you've heard the intro, verse, chorus with maybe a bridge in there, you've heard it already. You don't need to. Black Eyed Peas songs are like that.
You don't need to relive it, right?
It's repetitive. It gets repetitive.
I got a feeling tonight's going to be a good night again. Yeah.
What is it? 2 minutes of that, and that's plenty. Yeah.
Well, remember, I'm good. The whole thing of that song right now is just the hook. That's really the whole. Nobody's listening to the rest of it. All they know is I'm good. But
something else you brought up that I thought was really interesting were the breaks on EDM tracks. And John had talked about it. You had talked about it. There are some breaks that people like. The break, let's just take a detour here for a second. The break and shout people like.
Yeah.
And I'd argue that people like the break in Sandstorm.
I'd argue they like
some do, some don't. I like the break, but
Sandstorm in the launch.
It's a breather.
The break in Sandstorm is really long.
It is.
You can chop it with hot cues.
Hot cue, and then when it starts building up, you can take 30, 45 seconds out of that. No one's going to be.
I decided to come out of Sandstorm at the break and drop it. Like I said, I used Shipping Up to Boston and then rolled to something else.
You could have rolled back into
the last 30 minutes of the wedding.
Roll it back into Sandstorm. I've done that where I've taken Miley Cyrus, Party in the USA, when she goes Britney on.
Yep.
I'll go into Britney. Oops, I did it again, and then roll back into Miley.
It's
funny.
Bad.
Brad did that.
It's too bad that we don't have somebody in here who's like the resident trance DJ who we could ask how they know. Oh, wait a minute. We do. Damon.
What year's the calendar say?
Well, I really don't play. I play trance, but I don't play a lot of trance.
I understand. How do you handle those breaks and those EDM tracks when you're DJing?
He just plays another Armin track. He's good. He's fine.
Do we leave the breaks?
Richie Houghton break? Yeah, that's
Do we leave the breaks? Do we cut the breaks short? Do we mix out in the breaks? How do you
I mix out of the breaks. When the break is coming, I'm already writing my next song. So as soon as that break hits, I'm out of it.
I feel like most breaks are designed to do that.
Yeah.
And most
don't you think there's trance breaks like Adagio? You got to play Adagio. Like even the breaks have some significance to the song. Those older tracks, the new trance tracks are just fill. To me.
I think in EDM, those breaks are made because they know the next EDM song coming in has such a long lead in. You can drop that backbeat and still keep that break in there and hear over it.
Yeah.
So I like doing that backbeat of the next song, and you still get that.
As long as your keys are right, sometimes it doesn't matter because the break is so ambient that you can change keys in the break too. And that's
can.
But count to 64.
The keys are there. You can overlap those, and that break is so long to let you bring in the next song.
But you can run them through. I'll play Cupid Shuffle, the funky mix version.
Okay.
And halfway through it, you can audibly hear the loop from Soulja Boy Crank That.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I get to the end of Cupid, I'm now just fading into, like, you can't tell when one ends and one starts because it's that.
Sure.
Yep. So I'm already in the next track and I get that Soulja Boy, and all of a sudden the crowd loses their mind because they think they're still in Cupid. So they're physically still going around doing the Cupid Shuffle. Yeah. And now they're suddenly, now they all have to start going like this. It's like,
I do the same thing in the idea of the rap the rap pieces in Yeah with Get Low.
Yeah, I do that too.
Those two overlap perfectly.
Yeah, they're kind of supposed to go together. Salt Shaker and a bunch of other tracks that just kind of were born
Salt
together.
Shaker goes really well with Blow the Whistle.
Mm-hmm.
Like really well.
And it's really too bad that you've got such a really
stuff, so
you've got such a great idea on how to mix Cupid Shuffle into Soulja Boy, but if you play line dances, you're not a real DJ. So I'm sorry.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Well, I think like you, Brian, I had that epiphany on the mountaintop one time years ago, and I just looked down and I said, you know what? None of these DJs are paying any of my bills.
Right. Nor are they paying attention to their audience sometimes.
So I guess I should only focus on what I can do and how I can be better than because, and the DJs that hear this that don't like what I'm saying, I understand that. It hurts to hear the truth.
I'm just
a lot of wedding DJs dial it in. They just show up like, yeah, I'm at a wedding. Yeah.
What were we discussing? And I told you, let's put it in our pocket. What was that? What were you saying?
About the crowd cutting weddings short.
Yes. I like that. Let's do that for 5 minutes.
Okay.
Because that's good. So Jay, to recap, was saying that if he feels that a wedding is going like dying, and they have like, let's say a last song request, and they want it to end big with "Don't Stop Believing" or "Piano Man" or whatever they want for the last song, he suggests to the client, hey, let's just go ahead and wrap this up so there's still people here for your grand finale.
Yep.
Jay, you were talking about a wedding that you did with a VP from one of the sports stadiums.
Yeah, from the Padres tickets.
And I'm assuming that was very high end with lots of heavy food and lots of alcohol.
Yeah, it was at the stadium.
So you have to kind of, as the DJ too, I think, look at that and say, okay, this group is going to be drinking heavy. They're eating heavy. So a lot of heavy food too. It's not your little hors d'oeuvres pass. We're talking big steak dinner. We're talking a lot of heavy hors d'oeuvres. We're talking that. You're weighing everybody down on the front end too with all of that. Now you got them dancing. You're moving them. Probably there's a whole group out smoking cigars or doing something in that idea. That's when you come into weddings of that stature and that style. I also find you're right, Jay, that they tend to end before they're supposed to.
I want to share something.
I think those crowds know that. Like, you do a Ritz-Carlton wedding, chances are the guests coming aren't used to VFW weddings. So this isn't out of their wheelhouse like, oh, I'm having lobster bisque and I'm having scotch. I don't know how to regulate it. I started this long ago when I would get the famous line, hey, what time does your wedding end? We have the room till 1.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm starting at 5.
Right.
And if you'd like me to write you a 9-hour contract or a 8-hour contract, I can. It'll be well over $2,000. Why don't we do this? Why don't we write a contract till 10? And at 9:45, if you think and I think together that this has legs, let's extend it till 11.
Yeah.
And then if we think it has more legs, let's go till 12. I did a wedding last year that ended at 10. We went till 1.
Going back to what
saying, go, go, go. I'm like, okay.
Going back to what you were saying earlier about suggesting that they end it earlier, whatever it is, half hour earlier, an hour earlier, whatever it happens to be. I just wanted to share with you something that I do sometimes.
Okay.
I used to do exactly what you said, and that is effective. But what I've also done is I have suggested to the client, instead of doing this for the last song, let's just do it now with this crowd here. And then I'll bring it down and you guys can hang out and talk or whatever you want to do. So I will do the big pop a half hour, 45 minutes earlier, and then I'll bring it down to chill. And sometimes I start playing some really interesting things in the remaining time that you're not going to dance to, but are really fun to listen to. And they can hang out, they can talk, they can laugh. And maybe it's just 15 people, but they do genuinely enjoy themselves. They've still got the bar, they've still got the room, and I just let them enjoy it in a more intimate setting.
100%.
Instead of telling them to go home,
You're not asking them to jump through hoops and dance for you like monkeys all night. It's so
you don't have to make them leave.
Right.
It's more when, and like I said earlier, the expression I tell every client is a wedding shouldn't end when it should end. It should end when it shouldn't. And they look at me kind of funny and I go, what that means is whenever I talk to people and they find out I'm a wedding DJ, I go, oh, my niece's wedding was amazing. Dance floor was packed all night. We wanted more. I know that wedding ended when it should have, not when it shouldn't have.
Right.
Because it was a great memory.
Yeah.
I don't hear many people say to me, and I see it all the time, oh, I went to a wedding, there was 150 people, and by the end of the night, there was maybe 12 of us.
Yeah.
What a great night. Even though it may have been a great night, it means they left earlier. And I will say to them, did you leave at the end? Oh, we left like an hour early. So I came up with this conclusion. Most people leave early. And if you have a ceremony anytime before 4:00, I can almost bet you the bride's doing her hair and makeup at 7 a.m., 8 a.m.
Yeah. In the club days, I'm just thinking how we used to show up at the club at 11:30.
Right.
Club was only open till 2, but we weren't there at 8:00 when the door.
No. Well, how many times do you talk to a client? You know? Oh, we can't wait. We love to dance. I'm like, oh, do you guys go out dancing very much? And it's like, well, no. Do you ever go to clubs to see DJs or bands and dance all night? Well, we'll go sometimes down to PB. We'll go to a club. I'm like, when do you guys get there? Like they open at like 8. When do you guys normally arrive? Well, like 11. Well, they close at 1:30. So you're there dancing. You're not dancing the whole time, right? No.
You're good for like 2-3 hours.
You're good for maybe an hour. Now that's in a nightclub where you don't have to talk to anyone. You got to remember,
2.5.
You're hosting this event. Everyone wants to talk to you.
Yep.
I said, and I'm telling you before we get there, if the room doesn't feel right and you're not in the room, I can't get your dance floor going crazy. I have every song ever made and it won't matter. So here's what I need from you. Are you willing to do all these things to make a great wedding? Or do you want to have a great wedding and we might end a little early? Because I don't want you to feel obligated if you're uncomfortable or exhausted at 10:20. Shit, we still have 40 minutes. You need to end early. I'll, just like you said, Brian, let me do your last banger. Tell everyone, hey, that's it for your dancing. Make sure you give the bride and groom a big hug and a kiss. I'm going to bring the music down, let you guys talk, hang out. And
I don't even say it. I just do it.
I'll say it just to give them direction because I find by that hour they're pretty drunk or they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh, this is awesome. And yeah, I get the bangers that are like, dude, if we could go another hour, we would. But like the police are here. There's a dog biting you in the leg. We really have to end. And I'm like,
I've had them start back up again. It's almost like a flash fire. It's like
and it's fun to do that too.
They put the fire out and
you out of nowhere just go like, here's
back
the
up
launch.
again.
And all of a sudden they start running out and you're like, aha, look who's got all the power now. I am the master puppet guy.
Have another cocktail, pal. We're doing the Cupid show.
And again, you have to go back to the DJs in an educational sense and say, listen, I understand that at the end of the night, you may have 4 people. That wasn't you. That was just the crowd. Again, it's
no, that was them, Bill, and they suck.
You know, that was their 11-hour
especially
day.
after COVID. They're a 10 o'clock crowd. They're done. 10 o'clock crowd. They're done. It's after COVID.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
and things are different. They definitely are. But I think you still need to understand that your success is not based on what you think you did. It's based on what they saw. I have reviews on different sites that say, oh my God, Jay was amazing. We danced all night. The floor was packed all night. And I'm like, what wedding was this? I was there. I did your wedding.
I tell you,
I had like 7 people at a clip on the dance floor. I don't know when it was ever packed.
Look, it's different from our
perspective. Yes.
It's different from our perspective. I've had weddings where I'm looking out there and I'm thinking, oh no, this disaster. No one's dancing. I've got a small crowd out there. I'll walk to the bar to get a soda or water or something and walk back and see that same crowd. It's like, it looks full. But then when I get behind the booth, it looks sparse again. It's goofy because it's all perspective.
Yeah, it's all perspective.
But again,
and the music thing has changed so dramatically that people don't value us in the same respect. We used to be the keeper of the song. We're not. Well, they go on Spotify. They get what we get. Now we have to be able to do it. And real quick, Brian, I've done this analogy. I think you enjoyed it. If I walk into the grocery store with Gordon Ramsay and we buy the same ingredients with the exact same menu and cook it in the same kitchen with the same knives, pots, pans. Nothing is different. Is there anyone on the planet Earth that's possibly going to be dumb enough to say to me, well, your dish will taste the same as Gordon's? No, it won't.
Right.
Well, guess what then? If I take someone who doesn't understand what a wedding is and I give them every single song and the best Pioneer DJ gear and the biggest speakers and lights and fire and everything, will they be successful? No, it's not about what you play sometimes. It's about what you don't play.
What I was going to say before you cut me off was that's an interesting topic, and I was going to bring that up as well. I saw a post on social media today where someone had said, but Cedric Jones, he seems like a real nice guy. I haven't met him, but he seems cool. Said something about, or to the effect of, when we tell a client that we want some artistic control of the evening, it's not necessarily an ego thing.
No.
And I think what he was getting at is sometimes they want to give you a playlist for the evening. And there's no room for requests. There's no room to kind of feel out the room and do what we were really hired to do. And that's what you're talking about.
100%.
I think that's what you were talking about.
100%.
How do you?
I have 2 events coming up in the next week. I think I told you last night. From June 1st to June 9th, I have 6 events. Birthday parties, graduations, a bar mitzvah, 2 weddings, all this stuff going on. And I'm in the midst of talking to a DJ whose daughter I'm doing her party. He's a DJ. He's actually a techno DJ. He opened for Carl Cox once in college. Like, he's a legit DJ. But it's funny to me because he's handing it all over to me, and he's the greatest client. I've done a bar mitzvah and 3 parties for him. This is what he's doing with the music. He's literally, you're DJing the party. What, you make the calls. I'm like, well, you know.
But he's a DJ. You're also an entertainer.
But he understands. He could have done this himself, but he doesn't want to.
I don't think so, because there's a whole
professional courtesy.
But there's a whole second side of it, Brian and Jay. There's a whole second side of what we do to keep a party moving, not just play music. There's that whole aspect of being the MC, being the person in control, and making sure things motivate and move the way it's supposed to. Where a lot of, like you said, he's an amazing DJ. He gets on stage, he plays, he opens, he does this stuff, but he's told when to do it.
Right. Ship needs a captain. You know,
John,
ship needs a captain.
What's going on.
So how do you handle it, John? If you have a client that wants to kind of micromanage every song that's played for the evening, how do you do damage control on that?
Well, simply stated, I mean, there's lists out there. There's Billboard charts. There's Spotify lists. I mean, that's just a mishmash of everything thrown in a pile, like a giant bucket full of vegetables, right? It's what we take from it that we make sense of it. Like, I understand that you want all this, but you give me this in a big pile of mishmash, and you have no idea what the order is going to be. I'll untangle it, but allow me the artistic creativity to throw in the stuff to connect some of the dots. That let me make sense of the whole thing, but I'm going to have to add a few ingredients to this DNA strand.
Kind of like, Jay's analogy. He's, if I'm going to go up against a cook, at least give me something. Give me some adobo that we don't necessarily have on our list here so I can make this dish unique.
Right, but see, you're showing my point, Brian. You're saying, I'll compete with you, but I'm only going to compete with you if you allow me to be individual.
Right.
If everything is marked the same, the guy with more talent has to win.
Right.
Yeah, you can have the underdog here and there, but this isn't David and Goliath.
Well, this is strictly a wedding thing too. Like a school is going to give you a list of songs you can play, and that's it, right? And so, ta-da, you're locked to the list. Whereas a wedding, it's different. There's different age groups. There's you get seniors, you've got middles, you've got the parents of, you've got the bride and groom, and you've got younger people too. And like you've got to quilt that in such a way to make it all fit for everybody. And I think that's the magic that we possess that Spotify or AI is never going to come up with.
I saw another post that was interesting today, and it was someone who was not happy that when they got the worksheet back from the client, it was more songs than they could possibly play at the event.
Mm-hmm.
And the client had essentially taken control of every song that was played that evening. And my comment to that, right or wrong, was that's why I don't do worksheets. In my opinion, worksheets are what completely ruins human interaction. We're not talking anymore if we're writing this stuff down. And how I feel like it's better to sit down with the client and have a conversation with them. Eric?
This happens a lot where they will give you 100 songs that they want played at the wedding. You know when I address it? Not before, but at the wedding. And you want to know why? Because during the wedding, they have no clue what's going on. They are too busy to even know whether you played them all.
It's theoretical before the wedding.
Right. Yeah, I throw a few bones, like if there's some good ones on the list, of course. And they're going to remember that. Oh, I had this on my list. Well, I had it on my list too, kid. Little did they know. But, I mean...
Yeah, we want to hear Stay It Alive by Bee Gees. Oh, jeez. I haven't played that in a long time.
Celebration Cool Again, please. Oh, please, and don't forget YMCA.
Something by Pitbull would be great.
But anyway,
so glad they wrote that down.
I don't address it beforehand. I just, okay, great, because I know in my experience at weddings, the bride and grooms don't have a clue 9 out of 10 times what you played and what you didn't. They're too busy.
Well, they are, yeah.
Right.
I remember I had a
I'm gonna bounce between Brian and Eric on this one. Brian, you're right. Throwing out a playlist or a worksheet.
I don't like them.
That means you're not talking to your client. And Eric, you're 100% right.
It's destroying human interaction.
Songs. What I do to my clients is I say this: I want 10 songs you love. What do you mean 10? 10 songs you love. Yeah. And the reason why I tell you 10. And it's exactly what Eric says. You're going to be so busy during the wedding. Make sure I pay attention that you're going to hear those 10 songs that you love. Yeah. Then the songs you like, there's no guarantee I'm going to play them, but I'm going to use them as a reference.
Yeah, I'll do that.
What I want is don't you dare.
Right.
I'll say please put an asterisk next to a song that you have to hear.
And I tell them 10.
More than 12, put an asterisk next to the song that you must hear so I don't just pass it up. If you give me all these songs, which I'm happy to have your requests or the songs that you like, I'm happy to have them, but I need to know your must plays because if I miss them, I miss them.
Yeah, I only give them 10 on the must plays. Well, that's it. Because they're never gonna, like Eric says, you're gonna miss them. More than 10, you really are, between what goes on during the night, between dinner songs, slow dancing, couple here, couple there, but your structured dances, your first dance, parent dance, and stuff. So there's 10 songs that you really want to hear. Let me know. Whether it be anything slower that we're going to play during dinner, I will make sure that you hear them because I'm going to pay attention that you're paying attention. Other than that, it's all a maybe.
To Eric's point, he was talking about how they really don't know.
They don't.
What's going on. It's all theoretical. It is for us too. Really, we don't know until we get there. So that's why we don't dial it in. We're there watching. I remember I did a wedding. It was years ago. This was 20 years ago, probably. The client, the groom, when we sat down, said, we want to hire you, but we need to know that you're not going to play Love Shack. I said, fine, I won't play Love Shack. Well, I said, what if somebody asks for it? He says, just don't play it. And she said, well, my mom really likes that song, so this is going to be... I said, okay, how about this? How about I make sure that you're leaving for the bathroom before I play that song? And he said, okay. So I waited for him to leave. And then I played the song. He never heard it. And the mom was happy and everybody was happy. There was another one that I did. And it was really funny. And again, probably 20 years ago, we don't want any line dances. So, okay, fine, I won't play any line dances. So I get there and everybody wants a line dance. So play the whatever, electric boogie and this and this. I can't.
Go ask the bride.
I got on the microphone. And I said, listen, I know a lot of you want to hear line dances tonight. I can't play them. I can't play a line dance song, but there's nothing in these bylaws that say you can't line dance to something I play. I put on Love Shack and they did the electric slide to Love Shack. It was hilarious.
That's a loophole. Yeah.
Everyone laughed. He laughed. The client was laughing. Oh, it was the audience was having a great time.
Here's just 3 quick things I've got to say. 1, I provide my clients with a music request list. And I do warn them, if you give me more than I can play, obviously I can't play it. So what I'm looking for is just a feel of what you're into.
Mm-hmm.
But I also give them what's called a must-play 10-song list of these are in no particular rhyme or reason songs that you have to hear.
Yeah.
So we're good there. 1. 2, I never blame the client, meaning I never say the bride said no. I will tell people I don't have it. And they'll say, oh, you can go online. I can't get on the internet. I'll take the hit because there are times that they don't want to hear a song that their mom does, and they don't want to have the balls to tell their mom, no, it's my wedding. So I'll take the hit. I'm okay with looking like,
I will when I can.
It sucks. He won't play my song. And 3, the biggest problem I'm running into in the last year is, hey, can we send you our Spotify list that we've curated over the last 3 years? And it's got 11 and a half hours. And I'll get the list and say, wow, that's a great list. Now, did you want me to revise the contract? What do you mean? Well, the list you gave me has 11 and a half hours of music. So do you want to redo the list and break it down to about an hour? Do you want me to use it as a general and not have to play anything off of it unless it fits and I can't find a song on my own? Or do you want me to redo the contract? Oh, no. We just want you to get a feel for what we're into. Okay, perfect. Then I'll use this as a guide, and maybe I'll play some of it during dinner and maybe a couple during cocktail. And there's a couple of great dance songs here by, Whitney and whoever. But otherwise, you, just like you say, you are completely giving up control. And I've had clients say, well, we just want this. And I'm like, you don't need me then.
I feel like I feel attacked a little bit here.
No. And I didn't mean.
No, I do. And I want to clarify.
Okay.
When I have a conversation like I had with the client about the line dance stuff.
Right.
I have a really good feel for what the relationship is with the person I'm talking to and the client.
Right.
How well they know each other. And I do this stuff when it's appropriate in a very humorous way. I'm not assigning blame as much as I am.
Right.
Just kind of.
No. And I totally get that. And I've had the bridesmaids. There's a time and a
place for everything. It's not, would not always be appropriate to do that. Absolutely not.
No. And I've had the bridesmaids come up, and I'm sure we've all suffered the, what I call drunk request, which is.
No, I'm dancing. Could you play some more?
2 seconds later, some random will come over and request the same song. 3 minutes later,
you were.
They're feeding them up to the DJ.
Yeah. And the third one,
I better play. I hate that.
So do I. But it's like I'll get the bridesmaids that'll come up knowing the rules and say, "Hey, I understand she didn't want to hear this song. Yeah, she didn't. Well, you have to play it anyway." I'm like,
"Nah."
Yeah, no. Well,
that
but
falls
we
into
really
the same
like
idea.
Like, well, then why did she say no to it? Or they'll say, "Oh my God, the bride loves, Two Live Crew."
Well, they're doing it as a joke,
and I'm like, "Oh, no way!"
Or they come up and say, "The bride just told us that she really wants to hear this."
Yeah, they're doing it as a joke, but they don't understand that our livelihood is on the line for this.
Well, and that's what I'll say. I'm like, you know what? It's like if I went to your job on Monday and I said, "Hey, put a third patty on that Big Mac for me," you might get fired. And like I'm talking fast enough that they're not picking up on that I say that
you're suggesting that they work at McDonald's.
But and it's like, but you wouldn't do it because you don't want to lose your job, but you'd still be cool to me as a customer. And like, no, I totally get. Wait a second, did you say Big Mac? I'm like, I'm just making something up. I don't know what you do for a living.
No, you do. I don't know.
And they just
I think the heart transplant recipient would love to have, I don't know, an artichoke in there instead. You should do it. It would be awesome.
It'd be awesome.
Whatever. Yeah.
But I understand I've had 0 to drink and you've had like 7 Fireballs and like 3 IPAs. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to beat you on this game, but give it your best shot.
To wrap it up, Eric, I saw you twitching.
I'm not twitching.
Oh, then I misread your body language.
Oh.
That's a stroke or a seizure.
It could be a stroke. It could be. No.
It could be.
If you see him
Power
go
line
like
goes
this,
overhead.
then we worry.
No, I'm enjoying everybody's.
I'm still here.
I think everybody's spot on tonight. It's great.
Damon's watching the game. I can tell.
Who's
I'm
winning?
listening. I'm paying attention to you guys.
He's watching the
Jay is
game.
talking so much I can't get in. So
Sorry about that.
Well,
What's that about the Celtics? Well, I'm just saying.
Let's go Celtics.
I'm trying.
but I'm also Bill. You know, Bill's making some good points. Jay made everybody made good points. So I'm just, just listening, being quiet.
What do you have to interject here on all of this stuff?
Oh no, everybody. I was kind of in the same place with Bill. Give me 10 songs.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
Yeah, that's good. 10, a dozen, whatever.
Yeah.
For a while, I was asking for 5 because I knew if I asked for 5, they would give me 10 anyway.
Yeah.
And if I asked for 12, they'd give me 24. I mean, it's the way it was.
You give me 10 songs out of your besides the specialty songs, then I'm good. I can work the rest of it from there.
I found that I'm having better relationships with my clients for some reason. I can't put my finger on it. But when I sit down and I talk to them, we are on the same page and we are working together. I used to feel like they were working against me sometimes, but I don't feel that way anymore. I must be doing something different. I lay it all out.
Having that conversation where you're taking control of it, Brian, where you turn around and say, "This is what we're going to do," rather than say yes.
No, I think what I'm doing is I'm letting them know that we are a team. I also let them know that I am the coach, you are the athlete, so you're in charge. I can recommend that you do certain things. I can recommend that you don't throw a southpaw yet, but hey, man, you're Rocky Balboa. You're going to throw a southpaw and you're going to throw a southpaw. I'm Burgess Meredith just saying, hey, that's not a good idea. Don't do it yet. I'm ready to throw the top.
Why
Like, no, I go
driven by boomers now.
Yeah. When you say they say have no energy left, you're like, get back out there, Rock.
Get out there. You're going to eat thunder.
Remember, Burgess
crap
Meredith
lightning.
died in the
Or
series.
eat lightning and crap thunder.
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's face
That's
it.
why our audience is just about
It's
taking
teamwork at any
Geritol
rate.
going to bed right now.
We all want the same thing. I want what you want.
Yeah, let them know you're on the same side. That's all.
Yeah.
You're not working against them. You're not trying to make their day complicated. You want it to be the best it can be.
Let's face it. We've all had that bride. We've all had that bride. Once that contract's signed, she calls you every other day with a change. Oh, we're going to do this instead. We're going to do that instead. Oh, this one's not in it. This one is in it. And I'm like, listen, honey, the wedding ain't until 10 months. Call me in 9 months and give me all the changes.
I'll take all the revisions.
take it
A month out.
What do you think you are? You think you hired me or something? Come on. What are you paying the bills now? Oh, yeah, I guess you are.
Yeah, oops.
I don't make notes on one of them things you shake.
Yeah, I need extra cash with some whiteout. Yeah.
How is this wedding gonna go?
Yeah.
Speaking of etch sketches, when I'm done with the gig, I've finally done with it after all the planning and all the meetings and all that stuff. I literally do this and pretend there's an etch a sketch in my brain and I'm erasing all that information. And I don't even know it anymore.
That would be nice if that really worked.
It would be cool if you could really do that.
Yeah, but do you guys suffer the same syndrome of the night of the wedding? You've got a piece of paper that you've reviewed. I type the names and then I hand write them as a way to remember them.
I used to, yeah.
And I'll go over to the wedding party on those weddings and I'll say to the bride and groom, like, okay, girls, you're going to line up. It's going to be Samantha, Stevie, Tracy, Kieran, yada, yada, yada. And they're like, oh my God, you know all the names? I'm like, yeah, that's my job. Even though I know I just read them. And then when I get to reading them, it's like, okay. And then like 3 days later, out of the blue, I'm driving and I'm like, yeah, that's Stacy, Kevin, Trina, blah, blah, blah. Like in my head, rambling all the names of the wedding party. I'm like,
That's almost PTSD at that point.
I know it is. It's like, get out of my head.
Yeah, I drove to the Quickie Mart to get something. Now I can't remember, but I can remember Stevie and Trina and Tammy and Kelly. I was like,
yes, exactly.
Was it
Here's a question. How many of you guys use virtual?
I do.
Well, a lot of us are DJs. Oh, sorry. What are we talking about?
Wow, you went there. Wow. I would love to see, actually, even virtual or Serato, but I'd love to see them create a field that we can go in and just type 2 names in and it would sit at the top of your screen.
That'd be cool. Like a notepad.
Yeah. Just the 2 names.
I need
Right, that's all you need.
Yeah, that would be
put stuff in the comment field, I guess, but it
No,
wouldn't
because
be.
I mean, honestly, after
Where'd I go?
the formalities,
There's John.
all you really have to remember is them.
I just whacked the wire. All you really need is a Sharpie in the palm of your hand, and you're kind
And if I could just give everyone a nugget that it'll sound funny, but you'll think of me when you get a gay wedding, 2 men or 2 females. And here's what you do. One, if they say, how are we going to be introduced? Say, you know what? In most of my same-sex weddings, I like to introduce as the newlyweds. But if I introduce you as the newlyweds, John and Kevin, on a piece of paper, and this is legit, I write down John Kevin and I put a 1. And then I put Kevin John. So every time I say your name, I will switch them. So if I introduce you as John and Kevin, then I will say, I'm going to ask Kevin and John to come out for their first dance. Then I'm going to ask John and Kevin to go do their cake.
That's a great idea.
The reason is it's because you don't want to give a priority or male, female, bride, groom.
Yeah.
And 100% of couples, when they hear this, the look of relief on their face of,
that's a great idea.
God, we never
I do the same thing with straight couples. I'll do John and Karen and Karen and John.
Well, no, the guy
I'll
comes
mix it up all night. Yeah.
That still makes me laugh when I get the
okay, well, yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Sally and John Cena. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm the old man in the room because like it's not.
No, if you're doing a service, you follow the preamble. But like you said, the rest of the night it's first names, and switching them is a great idea.
I never thought to do it with straight couples. I do with straight couples too. John and Sally, John and Sally. Just
I will introduce them.
Wife.
I will introduce them as John and Sally, and then after their dance, I will say something like, Sally and John would like to invite everyone to come out and join them on the dance floor. I'm making a point to do that pretty quick.
But then do you switch back to John and Sally, or you
I'll go back
Sally
and forth.
John?
Yeah, I go back and forth. So I do the same thing with straight couples. As you know,
gay couples, it seems to be a lot more important. With straight couples, it's become the bride and the groom.
I don't know what women you've been dating, but I guess
Well, you know what though? I think there's still. Again, you've got to look at the point of this is for the audience.
1952, you're right.
The audience-wise, it's, that must be the groom and that must be the bride. No, it keeps switching. And 99% of the paperwork I get, the introductions are Mr. and Mrs. or Sally and John, Smith.
Right.
And I'm always like, okay. Like you wrote it. I just feel, and again, it's
I asked the question,
sure.
how do you want to be
I feel
introduced?
a little out of place. Like, why am I calling you guys Sally and John? Like, does he just not have a pair? What's up with this guy? Like, wake up, dude.
I do it. I guess I don't have a pair.
You can mix it around. They're interchangeable. Unless she has a title, unless it's like Mr. and Doctor, then you're like, better drop that in there.
When I'm finally a wedding, I always joke with a couple too, straight couple, but I'll joke with them and I'll get her, her maiden name, and I'll say, so it's Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and they both laugh, and that kind of thing.
That might get me shot.
Nah.
Great show, guys. By the way, if we don't cut it, John's gonna have a nightmare editing this because let's keep it under an hour. But good show, man.
Yeah,
Damien, you said you got 20 words in. That was awesome.
I appreciate that.
Quality words.
Next time I'll go for 25.
I think it was 18.
We only take 20 requests. Sorry. Words, all that. Keep it short.
It was 18, but who's counting? He's watching.
Thank you to the panel. Thank you to DJ Event Planner